Welcome to Demolition Success Secrets, the podcast that's changing the game for demolition businesses everywhere. Ever wondered how a wrecking ball wielding industry can leverage digital marketing to dominate their market? Well, we've got the blueprints, strategies, expert guests, and more to show you how. Stay tuned, because we're about to blast through the barriers of your business.
We have Ryan from Service Legend, and just wanted to welcome you on this Friday. You have a very interesting weekend planned we talked about. If you want to start with that and then tell us some of your background, I think our guests may relate some if they've been on a tough project this week, and others of them, they probably won't relate at all. They'll probably be partying this weekend.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. And yeah, this weekend's going to be full of nothing. I was thinking, like, it was funny. I was like, hey, I'm not going to do much this weekend. And you were like, oh, like active things, like, oh, so you're going to actually go running, go in the sauna, go in the cold bath. And I'm like, no. I'm talking about playing PlayStation with my 6-year-old, just literally just bunkering down as if the world's ending. A different way of relaxing, I guess, I was thinking about. But yeah, man, super excited to be here and excited about the weekend. But more importantly, excited just about business and about what we're up to. Just to give you guys some context, so I own Service Legend, which is a digital marketing company for home services, and we focus on concrete coating companies and painting companies, but we also will serve the power washing industry, Christmas lights, and a few other niches that are kind of right in there. But it's mainly concrete coating and painting companies, and we do done-for-you services. And we just started, actually done with you services not very long ago, and we're calling that Service Legend Academy, where we're actually coaching and training these companies to do their own marketing, sales systems, business systems, project management, finances, things like that. So we're actually teaching them how to build a 7-figure concrete coating company in the academy. So that's been kind of fun. And then that's kind of the main juice, if you will. And then I also own a home service company myself called Cardinal Concrete Coatings. We started that company in July of 2020. And we did 1.5 million cash collected in the first 10 and a half months. And then that company will do about 2.5 million this year. And just a local service business here in Phoenix. We have 4 crews doing, residential and commercial concrete coatings, the flake system, polished concrete, things like that. And then, I've had the opportunity now to, speak on different stages now at the huge convention. There was 2,000 people there. Tommy Mello spoke there. A bunch of other guys spoke there. I've spoken at Tommy Mello's event in 2023 here in Phoenix. Been speaking at different places and sharing, value and education and things like that, which has been amazing. And then the host of the Service Legend podcast in our Service Legends Facebook group, where we talk all things marketing, sales, business, and have a great community over there. So, but the most important thing is I'm a husband and father, son, brother, and leader in our business. And my favorite things are being a husband and a father.
Yeah, you do a few things, man. You're if someone ever called you lazy, you'd just be like, well, I don't even know how to spell lazy. I don't have time to spell lazy. That's wild. Okay. Amazing. And part of why we brought you on is, like, there's so much that's applicable from, first off, you have a business. You're not like, how gurus in certain instances, they're like, hey, we're making 8 figures or 7 figures or whatever. And it's like, yeah, how are you making that though? I think that's what's really cool with you is, to my knowledge, at least the lineage was your business first and then your wisdom and marketing, or was it flopped around?
That's a great question. So this company, Cardinal, which is the home service company here in Phoenix, the marketing company we started first. Now it wasn't very, it wasn't years before. So we started the marketing company in October of 2019. And then we started Cardinal in July of 2020. So it was less than a year, started the home service company. Most people believe that we started the concrete coating company first and then learned how to run it and then started selling marketing or services, things like that, which is most traditional gurus, I would say do that, right? Where they have their business and then they start selling the knowledge and the value and, after it. So before the businesses, actually, I was a sales and marketing manager for a multi-million-dollar painting company. And that company had started a concrete coating division about 3 months before I got there. And that business was in business for 37 years before I got there. So I got to see a lot, learn a lot. But I sold in the home. I did the Facebook ads, did the Google ads, did the SEO, did everything from the marketing perspective. But I also did sales. And I also saw how the production was ran, the office was ran, the finances were taken care of, all of that. And so one day I was like, man, like I think I could probably do marketing and things like this for other companies, but I also could probably start my own painting company or coating company and do this myself because I feel like I could just crush it. But I did not have the resources available to start the coating company first. So we started the marketing company right away.
Okay.
Yeah, but we got to like 40 clients before we started the coating company. So we were already, and it was very short. It was like maybe like 4 to 6 months where we were just like, whoa, we're like, we're doing 60, 70 grand a month. And I'm like, man, like, let me think about this for a second. We're taking all these companies that are coming to us doing, 30, 40 grand a month. And now they're doing 100, 90, 120, 150, 170 a month. And I was like, man, I think we could do this. And so we started the coating company, which I would never recommend starting 2 companies within a year. But that's what we did.
That's fascinating. I thought for a second there you were about to say, I'd never recommend starting a concrete coating business. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? Okay, that's amazing. I love that. Yeah, so maybe some of that wisdom there for maybe our demolition contractors, the guys boots on the ground, maybe head estimators that have debated starting their own demolition company. Can you give us some of the wisdom from how you went from being in the house to creating your own house, so to speak?
Yeah, so I was a sales and marketing manager for that painting company in California. Now, previous to that, I was a commercial estimator for an 8-figure flooring company that did carpet, vinyl, VCT, and it was strictly commercial estimating. So just online bid sites, things like that through GCs and things like that. And I sat in a room probably like this with a big old screen and just to finish schedules and things like that. And then I went to the residential side. But when I went to the residential side, that's where I was like, I just, I fell in love with the ability to take an idea of like an ad, some marketing ideas, and take that concept out of our brain and then to see it in real life. And then customers actually opt in and they find our website, they go to the ad, they give us their information, and then we get to call them. They're excited about it. And then we go out there and then they give us money and we do the job and then they're happy. Like just that whole process, I was like, I just fell in love with it. And I was like, man, this is really cool. I was like, this is really, really cool. And I feel like I'm actually making a difference in the world,
Right.
And previous to that, I felt like I had never made a real difference or an impact or a purpose. And so for me, it was really cool. And it was once in a lifetime. And I was like, man, this is what I'm supposed to do in my, in my life, and I finally felt that calling, that purpose for the first time ever. And so, but it quickly turned into, well, how can I get more of this? Cause I learned that I was like, well, I'm only going to get so much of that juice, if you will, at this company, and I wanted some more, so I'm a pretty passionate person. Whether it's, or impulsive, whatever you want to call it, ADHD. And so I just was like, that kicked in when I'm like, man, I want more of that feeling. Like I want more customers. I want more reviews. I want more ads, more money spent. I just want more of this, whatever this was.
Right.
And so that's where it started, where, I started to kind of think and I'm like, man, I really feel like I could either teach companies how to do their own marketing, how to do their own sales, like how to build an actual system to acquire customers, or I could just start my own business. And so that's where it started to kind of like just that, that worm turned into a butterfly, just kind of started there. But it was, I would say the feeling and the thing that I wanted more of anything was not, money and things like that early on. It was, man, I really feel like there's an impact being made here. Like
Right.
I'm actually making a difference, here.
Mm,
And I wanted more of that. So that's where it started.
that's crazy. And then it's funny too, because to an extent, I would think you have this inversion of like you're in an office. You even said kind of like this.
Yep.
And then you go out in the field after you get rid of, let's say, that corporate job, the suit and tie, or the cubicle, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You go into the real world, you do some field stuff, you shake some hands, go to meetings, etc. And then, like I said, it almost reverses where as you scale back up the pyramid, you are, to an extent, your time is most valuable being in an office, of course, being on a stage and, going to nice meetings and things like that, going to conferences. But it is funny how like you kind of revert back, but now you still feel the impact and you actually know how valuable and important it is. And you just like, you're in the same place, but you're not in the same place. It's kind of a funky, interesting way to look at it. But yeah, so if we have a demolition estimator, demolition contractor, you mentioned the resource allocation. Some of the people that are listening right now, they don't have 50,000 or 100,000 or 20,000 or whatever. They have a family, they have a bill, of a home or what have you. So you mentioned maybe for them consulting, if they did want to stick their foot in the water on the other side, maybe a consulting type of role would be a good way to keep your job, keep your bills getting paid, test out the waters on that side. Or I don't want to recommend it, demolition marketing. They'll have to compete with us. I'm curious, yeah, because in demo, there is a lot of capital intensive aspects. There are a lot of ways to have a job, like you get the contract and that actually makes you bankrupt because you didn't do it right.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend for the listeners who are curious about how can I be entrepreneurial while still covering my bases, and then maybe eventually they start their own demo company?
Yeah, well, I would say, first of all, it's a great question. And if you're in demo and you're an employee somewhere, whether you're a sales manager, you're a production lead, you're some sort of project manager, something where you're probably making, 80, 90 grand, a year minimum plus bonus. So you're making six figures. That's probably the mindset where you want to be in, is where you've accomplished something. It's going to be hard to start your own business if you're making 40 grand a year, and you have no savings. It's going to be challenging. Now, I'm not saying you can't do it, because we started the marketing company with $800, so
Wow.
you can do that.
You have a lot of credit cards?
Yeah, there was no credit cards there,
Oh,
early
wow,
on. It was
even
just,
that. So straight $800 and you guys hit the growth you did that quick. Jeez.
yeah, it was like $800. I think we had like maybe $1,100 or $1,400 in our bank account at the time.
Wow.
And so we didn't really, we put all the eggs in the basket, but I was pretty committed. But so if you have that situation, you have to think about the business you're getting into. The marketing industry was, is pretty low barrier to entry at some level.
Right. You don't
it's
need a
at the
fortune.
beginning, right? Like I
Right.
didn't have a company in the beginning. It was more of like people were hiring me. So I was trading my time for money. I didn't have a business. But so like with demo, if there is projects or are projects or things you can do in your local area that you can do yourself, or you and your team, or you and your wife, you and your friend, you and your brother, something like that, where you can do it, which means you're going to trade your time for the money. You don't have a business yet, but you have the ability to make money just like you're doing now, right? Like you're trading your time for money being a project manager. So if you know how to do the work, you could trade your time for money in a different kind of light, if you will. Now, I wouldn't recommend it, but I'm just saying if that's what you want to do, you could do that. What I would recommend is to be a little bit more committed. And here's the one thing that I would have done is I would have spent more time. Now, I wouldn't go back and change anything, but if I could, and I knew it wouldn't, change our outcome, then I would probably change this one thing, which would be I would have stayed longer as an employee to learn more about leadership, to learn more about certain aspects of how to run the business, to set me up a little bit better. And so like,
Sure.
if you do have a great job and you're at a great company, so this is different. If you had a crappy company, you have a crappy job, maybe go to a different one. But if you had a great company and you're learning a lot, you have great leaders, you have great management, you have good benefits, like it's a great job for you, right? It's a great career currently. I would lean into that. And so I would think about, okay, what skills and what things do I need to know to run a business, right? Finances, maybe is it leadership, is it systems? Lean into your current role and be the most badass employee ever, and learn and learn and learn and learn and learn, build relationships, build a network, build a community, build your skill set, and then go off with a little bit more of an on-ramp and momentum, versus just like, kind of like, just like, I'm done here and I want to do my own thing. That's kind of what I did. It was like, so it took years of learning these things the hard way, which again, I wouldn't change anything. However, if I was in your shoes and you have a great job, you're making 90 grand a year plus a $20,000 bonus, and your wife makes some money, and you're not hurting, I would say build an actual plan, get a vision board together, but lean into the current thing you're doing and learn as much as you can, save as much as you can, and then build some sort of plan to exit.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I look back, I've done real estate investing, I still do. I have done advertising. I have done coursework, helping people learn how to be better real estate investors. I've done a number of things. And ironically, I would say exactly how you did is you don't realize, see, I'm ADD, ADHD, like you alluded to earlier for yourself. I have this whole sick mindset of like, it should have been done yesterday. Even with my team, I'm like, we talked about this at the beginning of the week. It's Friday. I get it. You have other stuff going on. But like, that was something actually important. We should have covered that already, and we addressed it. So in my mind, I'm like, if we addressed it, you should have been working on that, right after the meeting, first thing, and then everything else comes. So yeah, I would definitely recommend for the audience, if you're a head estimator, if you're in production, if you are, the second one in line, and then there's the owner who's been there for 40 years, and there's never a way that you could rank up, it's okay to be aggressively patient. Like really, really jab at it while you're building up your capital. In demo, it is expensive. There is another angle that I'd add to yours. Of course, you can go do consulting. You can do jobs on the weekend. A lot of our clients don't do the little stuff. So, hey, guess what? You can have a little crew, and you could talk to the boss or whomever's in charge, maybe the sales manager, something like that. Say, hey, this is an idea. Don't fire me for this. I would love to take the stuff that we're not doing or referring elsewhere, and I would love to take a strike at it on my own accord. I'm going to set up a little LLC for $100 a year or something. I'm going to get some sort of insurance so that we're covered. And my buddies and I, or my family and I, are going to go wreck some walls inside of a home. Or we're going to, take the backhoe or an excavator that we could rent or lease, and we can go tear down the little trailer, because we, as a company, we only do houses and above. So, or farms. There's farms that come up. There's pools. We have clients who literally don't touch that stuff. And then we have other clients who are like, come on, bring on the pools. We're going to charge 10 grand to fill in a pool when we probably, the cost is truly 3 grand. So we're going to make a lot of profit on it, but a lot of other people don't even want to touch that stuff. So I would say, absolutely the way that you recommended. Also keep in mind that you have these other avenues that you could work within the and really try to rank up and think internal as an entrepreneur. It's okay to do that. You don't have to be an entrepreneur overnight. And then be aggressively patient where you're going to have milestones, you're going to have a vision board, and at a particular, you could say, capital amount or time from when you initially had the idea, that's when you could make the jump, potentially make the jump. So we got that covered. He's looking through the library like, oh man.
Yeah, well, there's
a little librarian to find it for you.
There is a book by I don't think I have this one here. I think my wife is reading it, or I think I might have given away. But there is a book, it's so timely. There is a book by John Maxwell. I don't think this one's it. The Inviolable. This is not it. But there's a book by John Maxwell that talks about how to be a leader within a business, right? Like how do you become a leader? How can you be a leader in a business where you're not in management or like in an executive role or something like that? Like, let's say you're a project manager and there's 56 employees and you don't feel heard and you're not a leader necessarily, and you don't manage anybody necessarily at any volume. How can you be a leader? I think it's a great book if you want to become a business owner, because it teaches you how to become a leader within the business, which then if you end up running a business, you have those people working for you. And that's the biggest thing. that I was talking about, which is to lean in more and to learn more about business and if it's going to courses or events yourself before starting the business, because then you're more prepared. And I feel like a lot of us entrepreneurs, and that's probably the key of the entrepreneur though, is we don't really need to be prepared. We just go for it. Right. But telling you, if you could take a little bit of time to plan, to slow down, and to actually think about what the skill sets that you need to learn or need to acquire before starting the business. So you don't have to, spend 2 years kind of learning the hard way, which again, most entrepreneurs like learning the hard way. But I'm just saying, if you're going to think about it, those are some things to think about. Also, I want to mention, be careful too. If you go talk to the business owner about starting a side thing, because so I'll tell you this: a lot of the old school business owners, they get very butthurt about it. I mean, they get so butthurt about it. It's wild. The old school guys, and it's usually because of insecurities or a scarcity mindset, or they're just very defensive and that type of guy, right? But or control, things like that. So you have to, before you go talk to the owner about, hey, I want to do this side thing, because they could be like, dude, you're gone. Like
right
away.
That's part of those milestones. Make sure you have those milestones where you say, hey, if I'm bringing it up, I could go either way. I have another job lined up, I have the money saved, I have the contacts I need, what have you. Because you're right, they could absolutely go, all right, cool, it's your last day, actually it's your last second, you need to go. And then you're like, oh man, I didn't hit my other milestones, and now I'm stuck. And now you go do something foolish and you go, well, I'm 50% of the way to where I needed to be, where I could really be prepared to do this. And now I'm going to go try it. And guess what? I say it in real estate investing too, is I rather see you hit a single or a double, like hit the ball, get on base, than try to go hit some massive home run or a grand slam. And guess what? Now you're out of the entrepreneurial game forever. You're depressed, you're bummed out, you're back living with mom and dad, or your wife or your girlfriend or something's looking at you like, I thought you were a winner. Now I don't know. And you're like, no, I'm still a winner, but I was an idiot. So that's a fair point that you bring up.
Yeah. So just to give you a story on that is, that company I left, Steve Holloway, love the guy. He's a great man, great leader, everything. But just my story. So there's a but there.
This is interesting. I didn't know there was a personal end of this.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to share it because I learned from it, right? And so,
sure.
But yeah, so he got very upset. That we started doing marketing for other companies, and not even in the same area, just in general. And got very upset that I left because I had a lot of really good stuff built there. And when I left, it caused problems. And it wasn't, I didn't create problems, but by me not being there, there was a void of marketing, of strategy, and things like that. So sometimes, here's what I learned is all times, people never know what they have until it's gone, right? That's just a fact in the world. And, in this life, as most people, the majority of the world does not, take, they take for granted the things that we currently have, right? And so you always, miss what you have. You don't take it, don't understand what was there and the value and things like that. So that's what happened there. And it was nobody's fault. However, one of the things I think you can do if there's an opportunity is, instead of saying, I'm gonna go do my own thing, there could be an opportunity where you can come alongside and partner potentially with a company, or get minority equity into a company and talk about growing different divisions or growing different locations, or becoming an actual leader in the business versus starting your own thing. Because I look back and I probably could have said, oh my gosh, like, man, you've been in business for 40 years. You're doing 2 million. Like, I think we could probably take this thing and double it and triple it with these systems in place. Man, I'd love to buy into the company, and buy 10%, be a minority partner, and then learn there too. So I think there's just an opportunity there as well to maybe come alongside businesses that have been in business for a while. Because if we think about it, private equity is doing it right now, right? Like, private equity is coming in and picking up companies left and right. I'm not sure about demo, but garage doors, HVAC, plumbing, concrete coatings, painting, landscaping, power washing. There's never been more private equity money in-home services ever. And so,
Right.
you could probably come alongside that owner, even if they're doing 5, 10, 20 million, if there's an opportunity for a COO, a CMO, a chief growth officer, or a partner for different locations, different divisions, things like that. So I would say look into that as well, peek into that window and start having those conversations a little bit. And then also just keep in mind that some owners, they get upset when any employee wants to do their own thing. And so if you identify that owner, like that character, that avatar, I would just say you probably want to keep it to yourself. Now, having integrity is you don't want to steal customers. That's the biggest thing is you don't want to steal current customers. That's the big no-no. So like, if you get a job, if you're an estimator and you get a job, they don't want to take the job on, don't take that job on the side. Don't lose your integrity if you want to start your own thing. Do it the right way, and have conversations like what you mentioned, but just know who you're talking to, I guess.
Honestly, like the entrepreneur sounds like we're both in agreement. Yes, we're
Yeah.
both entrepreneurs, but you and I, we obviously have taken some chances, certainly, like your alludement to the money and bankroll that you had prior to coming in. I had, maybe a different setup, but I still wish I just went and learned under someone else. Like, it's so crazy that I don't know whether it's our makeup with the ADD or ADHD or something, or whether we're just gambler mindset where we're like, hey, we're good enough that we'll figure it out. And if we lose everything, not a problem. We gain so much connections, insights. We'll quadruple it the next year after the bankruptcy or something. I don't know what that is, but yeah, we figure it out. But homelessness is rising everywhere throughout the country, probably throughout the world. We are the stories where it worked. There are legitimate stories, and let's face it, a lot of business statistics are not favorable. They're not necessarily ideal or good. A lot of our guests here do have good businesses. A lot of our guests work for good businesses. Whether you think the boss is a jerk or not, there might be reasons why he comes off as a jerk. He's been doing it for 40 years, and you've been doing it for 4 months. He might know, in certain instances, but he also may have blind spots, or she may have blind spots. So yeah, it's okay to be an entrepreneur and to frankly work on thyself first while you work in the business next. You can obviously do these simultaneously, get to certain healthy milestones, which I'm not talking about 10 years. Maybe that is what it takes, but perhaps it's 10 months, perhaps it's 1 year, 2 years, something. And then it's okay. Demo is not going anywhere. Concrete coding is not going anywhere. Sure, it would have been nice to maybe expedite things in certain instances, but I rather get to the peak of the mountain in one piece than lose a leg trying to get up there 10 minutes quicker.
Yep.
It's crazy. So let's kind of think of the owners. We've been talking a lot about the team members and things. I'm just frankly, I know you're not the demolition marketing expert per se. That's kind of where we come in, but I really want to make you get the spotlight on just marketing for businesses, scaling. You were talking about some great numbers that you've done for clients where literally you're double, tripling, quadrupling, 10xing. Mr. Cardone, shout out to you. Can you give maybe some insights that could be applicable for your market as well as for the demolition world?
Yeah, for marketing kind of points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
scaling,
say
marketing, scaling, the mindset, how can I double and triple? I can't believe that. We've done this for 10 years, but I bet if, someone like us or yourself were to let them see that it's possible, you've made people blow up. We've made people blow up. How can you do that through the brass tacks of marketing and sales, and then also perhaps some of the mindset we'll talk about?
Yeah, I would say one of the coolest things, or the best things, and coolest, but one of the best things going into the new year, 2024, that even demo contractors can do that. It's probably more B2B. It's more commercial, right? We're not demoing, well, I imagine there's probably not a lot of B2C going on where there's a homeowner reaching out. That is happening, I imagine, but it's a lot of B2B, right? I imagine.
Mixed bag. We see general contractors. We certainly see the Walmarts call up and those sorts of things. However, we do also have a nice mix of consumers too. I just inherited my grandpa's house. In the back of it, there's a big shed. It's not safe. Grandpa just simply used to have a little fence around it. Someone from the neighborhood jumped the fence. They got hurt. Now it's a big problem. We do have those pools. We do, man, quick story. And obviously, please get your mind rolling on this. But we had a call come in where, crazy, speaking of home services, landscaping company had their ramp down. And someone thought they were Vin Diesel, I guess. And they jumped the ramp and they went into a home. Their car went into a home and combusted.
Wow.
So a consumer called and said, hey, my insurance is going to pay for this. It's terrible. It's insane. But, mini Vin Diesel over here did this, crazy act. And yeah, their house got burned down. We also do, of course, have those instances of, let's say, an apartment complex where a property manager is going to call, say, hey, this is recent. It happened in Atlanta. Crazy story, too. Client said, hey, here's a AJC article. And the article was these two people who got arrested. They were doing fireworks like in the complex or like in an apartment, like I don't know, by the pool or something. And this place very recently burned like the top few floors down, like to smithereens. Crazy. So yeah, that would be the business where they're calling and saying, hey, like we need you guys to come out. We need you to estimate it. We're losing money because this whole place is screwed up. Like tenants are moving out left and right. So yeah, it's an interesting mix for us, but I think you're about to lead on to something with the B2B that a lot of our clients are overlooking.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say like even for B2B businesses that are focused on that, I still think, it's probably better for B2C, but even for B2B, short form content on 4 different platforms. Like if you just go on Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts, those 4 platforms, and you're posting short form content at least once per day, so 7 days a week, you're posting content about, it could be as simple as, this is, the 3 reasons why we use this specific branded, tractor or equipment or tools or material, things like that. This is why we use that, right? And you're posting that content, employee testimonials, customer testimonials, founder story, company story, who, what, why videos, all of those things, and post it consistently on those 4 platforms. And what it would do is help build the brand in the community where they know, like, and trust. And I guarantee that if there's 10 different companies that are all the same revenue, they have the same exact leadership team, everyone's amazing, they have great work, they have great brand, but those 10 companies are posting short form content, stacking against the 100 companies that are very, very similar as well. But those 10 companies that are doing the short form content, organic social media content online and getting those views and impressions with the brand, and the companies that are not doing that, I bet you, and I guarantee you, it's going to be easier to convert those leads into customers. It's going to be easier to get referrals, easier to get reviews, repeat business, etc. Because they already know, like, and trust you, and they're already pre-framed when they're coming in to do business with you. So, in addition to the amazing things that you guys will do for the companies with SEO, building websites, and all the things that that you guys do with ads and things like that, but having that organic value, education, and that presence of being omnipresent online, coupling that with what you're doing, I mean, the compound interest is going to be amazing. So I would think that's probably one of the best things that they can focus on is really putting themselves out there, being vulnerable, and putting out short form content on those 4 platforms from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, and it's not that hard. Like, I mean, I'll give a shout out to Opus. It is a content generation, uses artificial intelligence. Frankly, we use it. We don't, trust me, for all the stuff that we're doing, we're not spending 100 hours a week, but we're spending some quality time, not enough time that, any demolition company or concrete, coating company should be scared of. I mean, an intern can do the matter of fact, it might be better it's an intern doing it because he or she is 18 years old and they're probably doing this stuff for themselves. So they could certainly do it for the business. Yeah, I agree. It's like having a TV show. Like I don't know the Kardashians. I don't think I want to know them. Maybe, but not that badly. And you feel like you know them. That's probably why when they're out in public, people go up and take a picture like they're family. And it's like, you're not my family. We're eating dinner. You're coming up to me with my kids and you're taking a photo. Like, it's crazy, but it's because they feel like they know you because of the internet or when they have the show or that kind of thing. But you guys can make
it's like everything else, right? Show. It's like billboards, home shows, radio, TV. Like, so if you think about yard signs, if you think about your wrapped vehicles, you think about TV, billboard, radio, that's all branding, marketing. Those are not lead generation platforms. Like, people don't see a billboard, for demolition or for earthwork or for something like that, and are like, oh my gosh, let's call them right now. No, they see it every single day for 6 months, for 6 years. And then they also see you with the organic content. And then they also hear you on the radio here and there. And then they saw you at the home show. And then, oh my gosh, I see your yard signs. And then, oh my gosh, I saw the shirts at the guys at the gas station getting a Gatorade. And oh my gosh, I saw the billboard at the soccer team with kind of the sponsor billboard kind of thing. And then when I'm ready, that's the brand I'm thinking about, right? And so it's all branding, right? It's all branding. Nobody sees a TV commercial and is like, oh my gosh, like, I need to call this company right now. Now that happens, but the majority of time it's subconsciously implemented in our brains. And then sometimes what happens next normally is they're going to see those branding kind of channels and they're going to go to the website. They're going to go to Google and type in, and it's a branded search. So it's the same exact thing with social, with these reels. It's branding, and it's like a billboard. It's like a radio ad. It's like somebody walking by a home show and seeing the booth and never talking to you ever, but seeing it for every year for 6 years and then doing business with you. Like that happens. And so that thing can happen. That same situation can happen with organic social media. It's the same exact thing.
Right. Now, I'd be curious as a marketer, especially for the industries that we're in, what would you say? Because I think I know your answer. I think I know what most marketers would say, but I'd be curious from your perspective for what we service. Would you say, hey, be really lead centric or be really brand centric, or would you do a hybrid? Because a lot of these companies, frankly, in my space with demolition, some of our people they don't care. They're focused on bid websites. They're focused on GC relationships.
Right.
But boy, when we install what we implant into their business, I've worked with so many demo companies at this point. These guys are not silly people. They have plenty of money many times. And they go, my God, our phone used to ring 20 times a month. And that's from our relationships. That's from the general market, etc. You now have our phones ring 150 times a month. This is insane. We didn't even know this was a thing. But I do also see the value of the branding. How would you say a mid-market, smaller company should allocate spend for leads versus branding versus a hybrid?
Well, the branding side is really just who you guys are. And so the branding, there's going to be a budget for that. Now, the budget's normally bigger, I think, when you're building the brand, because what you're doing is you're buying market share, essentially, and it's super expensive to do that. And so, if you go look at like Gettle, for example, or A1 Garage, who are doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year in top line revenue, well, their branding budget is very expensive because it's mainly in wrapped vehicles on every new vehicle that's going out. There's so many vehicles going out, a lot of billboards, a lot of TV, a lot of swag, things like that can go into the branding. Like the guy's clothes, I mean, their budget's probably enormous. I mean, I think Tommy was saying one time it was like $3 million a year. Just like, now they're going to do like 200 something million dollars this year, but, a couple $1 million a year and just literally like cups and pins and all of that stuff. So that, that can get up there, or like even things like this is branding or marketing, like which,
right.
So there's a lot there, but in terms of like branding, like traditional, like where you're spending like what can be kind of like confused as marketing sometimes. Like a billboard, for example, to me is not marketing, it's branding. Because marketing is the art of like getting attention and things like that. But I would say it's generating leads, right? And so going to your point, what should we, if I'm going to do $20 million this year, what should I allocate? If I have a 12% marketing budget or an 8% marketing budget, whatever it is, what percentage of that budget should I spend on pay-per-click, LSA, SEO, email marketing, things like that, versus yard signs, versus a billboard, versus organic social media? Because it might cost you $5,000 a month to do that content properly, but so I would say if you have the resources available, put a decent amount of that budget, maybe 5 to 15% of that total marketing budget to branding. But there's also a certain point, like a plateau point, where I feel like you're never going to be able to track the ROI of the branding very, very much. I feel like a lot of the branding dollars, the way that you can help track that a little bit is website visitors. So like with a billboard, it's hard to track. I mean, outside of phone numbers, because most, like if you have if a billboard is done right, there's no phone number there, right? It just says ghetto in blue. That's it. Or A1. And then the color, that's it. And sometimes not even the website. It just says the brand name, because I want that person to like get that just embedded in their brain and then go to Google and search me. And so now I have a Google ad, LSA, Google Map, and a website ranking. And so you can, a lot of times the TV commercials, like how do you track that ROI? It's through website visitors. So it's like every time that TV commercial airs, how many website visitors do I get in a spike? And so a lot of your branding, you should be able to track through the destination of the call to action. And so if on your reels, like if you're shooting an Instagram reel, and your call to action at the end of that video is like, hey, go to servicelegend.com, right? Or go to our YouTube channel, wherever that is. You go to that platform and figure out, okay, I post our reels every day at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Do I get a spike at all to our pages, to our website, to our listings? Like, is there more phone calls like immediately, right? Then you can start to track some of that traffic. But your branding ROI is going to be very, very like almost nearly impossible to track like an actual ROI like you can on Google Ads, things like that. So it's this invisible brand equity and brand identity into the marketplace,
Right.
So it's hard to track it necessarily, but I would say revenue, right? Like if you're spending $5,000 a month on content and you're building your brand and it's been 2 years and you're not growing your business, let's put that into some Google ads, but if you're really thinking about growing the business from an omnipresent standpoint, maybe you want to exit the business one day, maybe you want to acquire better employees, things like that. Building a brand is probably the best thing you can do.
Yeah. I've been in some big offices and they've said before, because we do lean, ironically, heavily on the lead aspect, where we could say, hey, we got you 150 calls last month. On average, they were 7 minutes. They were net new relative to what you did before, because we used the tracking number. Like, that was us. That wasn't you. A month ago, you're getting 20 calls a month on average, and now you're seeing what we're seeing. Where I have had an executive say, hey, I look at you guys as branding, not lead gen. And I'm like, wait a second. I think you got that mixed up somehow. Like with what we were tasked for and hired for was to get the phones and emails, buzzing, ringing, inbox full. We've done that. How is that branding? And he had a whole breakdown. He probably went to some special conference recently and he mixed up, some missed signals there. But this guy, he just went in and I was like, are we done? Because I know what we did and we killed it for you guys. It was so fun. I'll never forget it. He told us, we obviously track the calls that you brought in the emails uniquely, so unique track number recorded and stuff. And, we actually qualified your leads harder than any other leads that we qualified. And I'm like, great. How many appointments did you book? And he said something astronomical. It was like, for the amount of calls you got us, we booked like 40% as appointments. And I was like, that's killer. Fantastic. And he's like, yeah. And we still haven't gotten a contract signed yet. So I don't know about these leads. And I was like, hold up. Like, let's pause real quick here. Like, you qualified these leads harder than any other leads you qualify, is what you just told me. So how are we getting the like? I would think you'd be looking downward at your team and trying to figure out, hey, did we send the wrong? What did we send out the newest sales guy possible on these leads? It's very interesting. That I still
and if they booked the leads, then that's something to say right there. Because because the leads are booking, so that's more of a sales.
Qualified them harder than their other sources of leads. It was just, I mean, the guy, we don't work with him anymore. We fired him. It was just like, I don't know. You get to the end of the meeting and you're like, hey, man, we're clearly not aligned is what we did when we got set up with this. But yeah, they're where they are in the world and in the marketplace because of those weird, like that was the owner and founder of the company. So that is what it is. But we're going to wrap up here. Do you have any last few bits that you want to include? Obviously, let the audience know where to find you. But do you have any last little golden nuggets before we wrap up?
I would say, I love what you're doing, man. It's pretty darn cool. What's interesting is, which I didn't mention this yet, but I have my older cousin, my oldest cousin here in Phoenix. He owns a company called Southeast Earthwork.
Cool.
And obviously they do earthwork, but he's been doing earthwork for now. That's mainly obviously different than demo, but they probably do some demo, but mainly, it's mainly just moving dirt, and foundations, things like that. And I always thought his industry was really, really cool. And what's interesting is he had reached out about marketing. And I mean, they've been in business for, gosh, I think like 14, 15 years, something like that.
Cool.
Multiple 8 figures per year. So it's a, good company. Obviously there's big projects, right? But so never did anything with marketing, right? Like I don't even think he even had a website ever,
Wow.
Yeah, just
How old's this guy? When he started?
He started the company probably when he was like 30. So like he's like mid 40s right now.
And he never thought of a website. Does
no
he have
website,
one yet? Perhaps
he was he worked for a big GC company before, and so it had like I said, had all the relationships, had the network, had some of the finances saved up, things like that. But what's interesting though is he reached out and built a website, wants to do organic social media, wants to kind of get online. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, this is kind of interesting. So just as you guys kind of, go into the new year, the economy's different, right? People are different.
Yeah.
There's going to be an election, which always creates some interesting times for the economy.
Fascinating election too.
Our
client, I think I know where most of them are leaning.
Yeah,
They'll be really happy or really upset. We'll come to find out.
And regardless of what happens, of who gets elected, like it's going to be an interesting year with the economy. So you've got to double down. Yeah. I believe you've got to double down. I believe on your people. So the people that you have, they got to get it, want it,
right,
have capacity to do it. So having really good people, but also really trained good people, and then having the right branding in place. There's a lot of companies that are going to go out of business this year or this next year, the next 2 years, that did not invest into their brand and just only focused on lead gen. So I would say if you're listening, really focus on your brand next year in addition to your people and training your good people. And then also I would make sure you know your numbers really well. So know your numbers going into the new year. And make sure you have systems for what you're doing. So you don't have to be the best like salesperson or the best this, the best that. No. It's having great people. Now, we want great people. We want the best people, of course, but you don't have to, everyone doesn't have to be perfect. But if you have really good systems that people follow, that's consistent and predictable, repeatable, and trainable, you can then have a business, because scaling the business is all about, systems, right? But people or systems don't run the business, people do. So there's multiple variables here, but I would just focus on a couple of those things going into the new year, because people will get left behind, and you don't want to be one of those people. So I'll leave you guys with that.
Love that. Awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you, man. Super, super shout out to you again, guys. He's got the hat. He's got pens. He's got a baseball. He's got all the cool stuff. Service legend. Check him out. Shouldn't be hard to find him. He is everywhere, and he's been everywhere for quite some time now. So, yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, man. Appreciate the time. Merry Christmas.
Appreciated. Yeah, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa.
Happy holidays.
All the good stuff.
Everything.
Happy 2024. Yes. So signing off, guys. Another episode of Demolition Success Secrets. See you guys in the next episode.
That's a wrap for this episode of Demolition Success Secrets. Stay tuned and subscribe for more explosive insights from our upcoming episodes. Until then, continue to blow up your demolition business and make the competition rubble in your path.